Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. Back on the other side of episode 300 with my guy, Grant Turner. I've probably done that introduction 100 times, GT. First time serious flub. Good morning, brother. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, man.
Good. All right, let's start with the hardest hitting news of the week. Whose team did better at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club golf outing, yours or Mark Ostrander's?
Not talking mulligans. I'm sure that I would have beat Mark's team. They ended up they played a really good round. Awesome outing, awesome course, awesome event. But it's a fundraiser, so of course Mark's going to get mulligans because he needs them.
Do they let him? I should not say this. Let me preface this by saying Mark is a significantly better golfer than me. And the last time we played with Mark at his son's bachelor party, shout out to Ben Ostrander, who paid for everybody's golf at Cog Hill, and B, shout out to Mark because he basically carried me, so he's way better than me. But did you guys let him play from the Reds based on his age? Did you let him do that?
That was part of the rules. Is hey, listen, you're up there with the green tees, buddy. So we had a great time, and once again, it was great to see Mark. I don't get to spend a lot of time with him in person, so
yeah.
It was also really cool to see a lot of just being around wrestling people and being around just donors and and people that really enjoy wrestling. It's really cool to be around just wrestling people. So it was a great day, great opportunity, good cause.
For sure. And I realized that the black USA Wrestling golf polo shirt is the perfect, appropriate shirt for Mark to wear at that event. You got your Hawkeye colors, you got your USA Dub colors. Everybody knows he's the podcast man. He carries you and me a lot of the week. So, that's awesome. And, I texted him. It sounded like he had a great time. I'm actually going to see his son, Ben. We're recording this on Wednesday, a day early. I guess we can mention that. You guys are doing me a favor. I'm on a train later on today to beat the Street Chicago for the duels tomorrow between all the teams from around the country. So first year I get to go to that. Very excited about it. Shout out to Mike Powell in Chicago for putting that together. I think there'll be a lot of young talent there. That event will be streamed on Rockfin on Izzy Martinez's channel if you guys want to check that out. So just excited to get up there. And I just texted with Ben, and I think we're gonna meet at the Drake and catch up, maybe have a steak and maybe a cocktail and talk wrestling as well. So that was the first time you met Ben as well, right? In person?
Yep. Yeah, it was great. You got a chance to meet him, and we got a chance to talk a little bit, and it was really good to because we do work quite a bit with the Hawkeye Wrestling Club and Chad Beatty. So it was really cool to see the family connections between Ben and Chad being both kind of best mans in their own wedding. So it was really cool to be really just be around those guys. It was really fun.
Yeah, you said it right. Ben and Chad are extremely close, and it's funny, years ago when we were all just living sort of normal lives, I met up with those guys a couple times in Iowa City and just hung out after in between rounds of tournaments. And now Chad's doing his thing. Mark's doing his thing with us. You and me are, I would say I'm traveling all over the country and you're traveling all over the world. So, it's a very, very cool situation. What was Tom Brands' message to the troops and to the crowd up there?
Oh, just that we're the brand new wrestling facility at Carver Hawkeye is under construction. Going to be in a world class wrestling facility for both men's and women's programs. They had a lot of their athletes there. Like Alex Marinelli, Austin DeSanto, Jacob Warner, Jaden Ironman, Pat Lugo. Spencer Lee was there. And Tom's message to the group, one of which is thanking for the sponsors. The building's going really well. He briefly touched on NIL and that it's here to stay. And then basically just, wished everybody a really good round and said, hey, we can't do this stuff without you. And it was a really good message. Very Tom Brand's media day-esque with some good takeaways and good quotes. So it was great.
Yeah. Tom Brands and Terry Brands are sneaky smart. I think they like people to think that they just are like guys that would run through the wall and aren't as cognitively aware of the world as they are. But when you talk to them, when you get time with them privately, they are very, very intelligent guys. They're very aware of what's going on in the world, in their program, and they're also very aware of the perception of them as human beings and of their program. So I'm glad you guys had a good time. It always does my heart good to see, you and Mark together. You're two of my best friends, and he sent me a picture of you guys, so that was freaking awesome. So anyway, all right, let's get into a few other things. The special wrestle off date has posted, GT, for Helen Maroulis. Let everybody know about that.
So just USA Wrestling posted that the Helen had, I believe, some health issues going into Final X. They have now posted the date of August 12th at Colorado Springs, wrestle-off between Helen Maroulis and Mota Pettis for the spot at 57 kilos for the Serbia World Team heading into the Olympic qualifications. I don't know the location. I didn't read the press release as much, but I'm sure that it'll either be at the OTC or local high school where they bring in officials and be able to do it. I don't think it'll be like kind of an open to public thing because it's just best 2 out of 3 matches. But once again, heading into the Olympic qualification, having one of our Olympic weights being settled or the world weight to then go see if we can qualify that weight class for the Olympic Games in Paris. That will be our last remaining world team member to be determined for Belgrade.
Right. 29 of the 30 world team members are set. And this is a good segue. Thank God, we have a pre-meeting ahead of time and try to set this up. So to review one more time, the Olympic qualification process this year is top 5 world placers go. That's different than 6, which means there'll be a 5th place match, which will be an absolute barn burner, and a ton of bricks will get thrown in that match because it's literally gigantic implications. The top 2 from the 4 continentals, which you're going to give us some information on in a minute here. So that gets us to 13. And then that extra spot that got dropped at the World gets added to the last chance tournament. So now instead of 2, there's 3. So instead of having to make the finals, you can come back through the repechage. And then let's say you come through the repechage and I come through the repechage. Talk about a gangster match. We wrestle, winner goes to the Olympics. Loser stays home. And I would say this, and you're probably more qualified to comment on this than me, you can come through that tournament and do really well. It's not like you're the 16th best guy and have no chance. It's a small bracket. You could get a good draw where you draw the champion, and so you're already through to the repechage. Or you can be like a Frank Molinaro and be the last guy in and be Frank Chamizo's knee being 3 inches from touching the mat and being the bronze medalist. So there's multiple paths there. So before we get to the question I'm going to ask you, is that explanation correct on the process?
Yeah, Worlds is first, second, bronze. Whoever got 5th in both repechage matches will wrestle each other for the 5th and final spot at the World Championships.
Okay.
So there will be an additional match, I believe, after the bronze medal match, after the other bronze medal match. I believe the way that it will work is that they will wrestle that night. So once again, you don't get your bronze medal.
30 minutes later, you're back on the mat.
You're going to go again.
Now, again, so here's one question I have. Those are only at the 6 Olympic weights, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. So they wrestle all 20 repechage matches, right? 10 weights, there's 2 bronze medals at each weight. So they wrestle those. And then after those, there's 6 true 5th matches, I guess, for lack of a better word. So,
Yeah,
Okay.
and those will be spread out because all non-Olympic weight classes and Olympic weight classes will be separated out on each day. So you're not going to have all 10 weights go one day.
They go 4-3-3 in general, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And women's is always I haven't looked at the order yet. Women's is always in the middle. Is freestyle or Greco going first at the Worlds?
Men's freestyle is going first. Greco is going second or third. Women's freestyle in the middle. Because Serbia is predominantly a very Greco heavy. Yeah. And they had a really great world championships in 2022. Best ever in the country's history. So.
Yeah. Well, and you're the one that taught me that the host country gets to decide the order and that the women's is always in the middle. So that was never too old to learn, right? I mean, even if it's bad enough that you're younger and significantly taller and better looking, just now to be smarter as well it's just the cruelest icing on the meanest cake possible.
Love that.
Love that for all those reasons. So the next thing to talk about tied to that is they've announced the locations for the 4 continentals, which ours is Pan Am's, but the continentals, it's Africa, the Americas, Europe, and Asia, and they've announced the location for the last chance. So you have that data as well, correct?
Yeah, so after the World Championships, you'll still have like a Pan Am Championships, but you'll also have a Pan Am Olympic Games qualifier tournament.
Right.
So please know that there's a difference between those two tournaments. If you go to like the UWW website and you see Pan Am's OG, that means Olympic Games qualification. So the U.S. will have its first opportunity after the World Championships. So if for whatever reason Kyle Snyder goes and gets beat or something like that, that's crazy, and he doesn't get into a bronze medal match and then he loses the true 5th place match, he would then have to go and qualify at the Pan Am Olympic Games qualifier, and that is in Acapulco, Mexico. That's where the Pan Am qualifiers will be located. Africa and Oceanic is one of the other regions, and they're going to be wrestling in Cairo, Egypt. The EU, or the European Championship Olympic Games qualifier, will be in Baku, Azerbaijan. And the Asian Games, or the Asian Olympic qualifier, will be in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, where they just had the ranking series there in Bishkek previously. The last chance world qualifier, meaning 2 people from each Olympic qualification area, or your continental championships or continental qualification, will be top 2. So you have to make finals. There is no true second wrestleback option at the continental championships. If you get third, you get third. There's nothing you can do about it. Where you would be able to go do something about that is at the last chance Olympic Games qualifier in Istanbul, Turkey, at the end of all of the qualifications. So most of these qualification tournaments will be in March and April of 2024. And then your last chance qualifier will be May 9th through the 12th in Istanbul. At that point in time, your Olympic field is set, and you will know, based off of all of that qualification, who is at each weight class and who's qualified for every country.
And you'd probably also know seeding criteria, right?
You would have a pretty good understanding that a lot of the people that would have been at Worlds in September are going to have the higher qualification point structures. You're really not going to get anybody that's going to go through the Pan Ams unless it's maybe a number 2 from a certain country that was also very top ranked in the world. But for the most part, your seeds are going to be determined by, the top 5 at World Championships.
So you said a lot of things there that I think are valuable, and I really started to understand this process in 2018, getting ready for 2019, so that when we were announcing, we didn't sound dumb. So this, in September's the Worlds. That's the easiest way to qualify. Now let's use the opposite example. Let's say Kyle Snyder does qualify. Then we as a country don't actually send somebody to the Pan Am qualifier at that weight, correct? So now it's all the other countries. So what you really want there, and when you go to the Worlds, what you're rooting for, guys and girls, is you're rooting for America to punch all 6 through. And if we don't punch all 6 through, that Cuba or whoever else from our continent does as well as possible. because if that person was really good and they got through, now we don't have to go through them at the Pan Ams. And the Pan Ams is a complete blind draw, is my understanding. So the two best guys could be on the same side of the bracket. Two best women could be on the same side of the bracket. So then the timeline is Worlds in September. March are the Continentals, you said. The Olympic trials are April. Last chance is May. So, and the reason why that's important, just so people understand it, is when you go into the trials, America and every other country in the world knows we've already qualified this weight. So, I mean, we've seen it. I think the easiest explanation is in Greco. There's several weights we don't qualify for the Olympics historically, but those guys are all still Olympic trials champions. So then they have to try to go qualify the weight at the last chance tournament. So hopefully that makes sense. When we get closer, we'll have diagrams and charts and flow charts and Venn diagrams and all those sort of things to walk through it. But important for people to understand that. And then also the 4th ranking tournament in Budapest, is that this weekend? It's coming up soon, right?
It's the first weekend of Fargo.
Okay. All right. So we can get to that later. Okay. All right. Let's go. All right. Couple of other things. So U17 Pan Am results. America on the men's freestyle or boys freestyle side, 6 gold, 4 silver. Without getting into the specifics, all this feels very much, I don't mean to gloss over it, but this is what America is doing at these age groups. And it says a lot to do, I think, with our system, the RTC system, the kids, how much better these kids coaching is at this level, right? GT, like obviously I joke, Mark's older than me, I'm older than you. Well, you're even old enough, I would say, that guys like Jared Lawrence and Brandon Paulson were not available to you when you were 10 years old. And I don't mean, there's a million other guys, Ben Askren, Strip Matter, 100 other super qualified coaches. I'm just picking guys that were like literally Olympic medalists and NCAA champions and things like this. They were just not coaching 10-year-olds. Is it that's fair at your stage in life when you were 10 or 11? That wasn't happening.
I mean, when I was that young, I think the first really, I would say, club or nationally syndicated club that I ran into when I was growing up was Overtime School of Wrestling.
Sean Burnett. Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, I think that there was aspects of it, but now, it is heavy club oriented. Mm-hmm. The way that once again, I don't want to say this out loud because it'll show my age a little bit, but
you're safe in this. You're in a safe space here.
Realistically, there was no flow wrestling.
Yeah.
There really wasn't, for lack of a better term, the internet. So there wasn't like YouTube and all that other stuff. It was like DVDs and VHS and camps.
Yeah.
Or you would have to go to the University of Iowa wrestling camp in order to go get coached by whoever it is locally, or go to a camp that like all of the Ken Chertow camps or the J-Rob intensive training camps, like you went to those because that was where the talent was or where you were going to get coached up. Now, Jared Lawrence, the Ben Askrens of the world, Sean Bormetz, we're doing a lot of this is based off of region. So I apologize for not, giving out other kudos to like, let's say the Edge and Hoboken and,
or like Valiant Prep out West. I mean, like, listen,
right. So
we're not trying to exclude everyone. We just don't want to rip off club names for half an hour. Go ahead.
Correct. But there was a demand. There was a business model to be made there. And I think there's a lot more people that are getting into that world of trying to coach and develop with, young kids in the sport of wrestling. So, kudos to everybody making that work for them and knowing that there was a lifestyle to be had by doing this.
You said a very interesting thing because I'm a business guy, and you mentioned there was a demand. To me, there was the perception, like if you're a great coach, you coach college. If you're a good coach, you coach high school. And if you're an okay coach, you coach kids. I'm not saying that was ever true, but I believe that was a perception. And then when women started, like, okay, well, if you weren't even good enough, then you coach women. And it's all changed. Now you have unbelievably elite coaches in every aspect of it. Like I just did a mat chat with Adeline Gray and Nate Engel. Nate Engel could coach anybody in the world. Okay. Like USA Wrestling Coach of the Year. So he could be coaching 4-year-olds, 14-year-olds, or Adeline Gray, or name the best senior level freestyle guy that you want to say. Like he's not going to be a problem in any of those corners. He's going to be asset, not a liability. The thing that you said, though, that I think is interesting is I think there was a demand. But I mean, like, I'm a Shark Tank guy. I like to watch that stuff and like, hey, we realize there's a problem. We're filling this need. I don't even think people realized that this was a need. Like, I think it was like, okay, you get pretty good in junior high, in grade school, pretty good in junior high. You go to high school. Nobody wins state as a freshman. Try to win a couple state titles. You go to college. You redshirt. You probably sit a year. I mean, you can go all the way back to the Dan Gable days where you weren't allowed to wrestle as a freshman. Like that was the perception was the law. And now it's like, no, like people talking about Meyer Shapiro coming in and win it, Cody Chittum coming in and win it. That's Mark's pick, right? And that's not crazy. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's not like you're a lunatic. No one's ever done that. We just saw Yanni win 4. He had to win it as a freshman, had to win it as a true freshman at Cornell. No red shirt there. So again, I don't know if we're off on a tangent, but it's when this is all happening, the odds of us having good U17, U15 kind of teams is very likely to be good, because these clubs are measuring themselves. And how many people did we put on world teams? How many stop signs did we get? How many kids do we have on junior duels, national championship teams? Like Gabe Arnold, like he's going to the Pans. He didn't get to go to the Worlds at that age group, but he took second. But like his dad posted, Gabe never bought any USA Wrestling gear because he wanted to earn it. And then they showed the picture, and I'm glad you're with Nike. All the gear he got from Nike, USA Wrestling branded gear, that is like the stuff I'm wearing. But that's his. He earned it. It's different than me. I got it because I do a podcast. He got it because he's on a team. And there's a million kids like that all around the world, coaches, referees. Shout out to Lewis Baker, who got the Golden Boot, I guess best, I don't know the official title, but best referee down there. That's my guy. So as long as this system stays in place, and I think it's great that the coaches we're mentioning can make a living coaching 10-year-olds. If they couldn't, they wouldn't do it, and then our wrestling would suffer as a country. So as long as they can keep doing that, all of us on the higher end benefit. Like, I don't think you've coached any of these 10-year-olds. I'm pretty sure I haven't coached any of these 10-year-olds or 17-year-olds, but we're USA. We're rooting for them. So I think the system is really good. It's like everything else, it'll get tweaked, but it's just something to, keep an eye on. All right. So next thing, while I'm pulling up an article, GT, Scared Money Don't Make Money is now calling Ann Arbor home.
Yeah.
What we got to say about that?
Well, I think, I believe Austin is going to be wrestling for the country of Mexico in preparation for the Olympic Games in Paris. So I think the international prowess of what is going on with what's going on in Ann Arbor is that there is a humongous international wrestling constituency there with, Ben Honas wrestling for Italy, Micic wrestling for Serbia, the Amin brothers wrestling for, San Marino. I believe there's a few other guys that I'm leaving out there, but they're building a little war chest of athletes up there, and that's also going to be helpful for the University of Michigan wrestling team at the collegiate level, knowing that all those guys are around and training.
Yeah, of course, right? You can get in an extra workout with any of those cats. I mean, it's unbelievable, right?
Yeah, it's bananas. It's bananas to have that level of talent running around in the same room as you.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Quick sidebar tied to that. Sergey Beloglazov is a friend of my family's, and he texted me like 6 months ago and said he wanted to do some camps. Shout out to Jason Keck in Kansas City, Greater Heights Wrestling Club, Marcus Hain, Thoroughbred Wrestling Academy in St. Louis. We did 2 one-day camps, drove to Kansas City Friday, met Sergey, did a dinner, Saturday clinic, drove back Saturday night, clinic Sunday. You know how like sometimes people will be, okay, so like you're part of a team that's won 9 out of 10, 10 out of 11, whatever the right number is, national titles, right? So if I go to you, I go, hey, is this team pretty good? And we're off the air and they're 18th. Okay. Now in their pond, 18th is amazing, right? Or even 9th. But like the one year they could have been 9th and scored 150 points less than you. I go, how good are they, GT? You go, they're pretty good. They're okay. Right. Now in the air, you'd go, they're really good. They're a worthy opponent. I get it. But the real answer is that, right? So I'm talking to Sergey about these guys, like just historical guys, world champions. Like, oh, he's okay. And he's not big timing you because his level, 6-time world champion, 2-time Olympic champion, 8-time total. And no offense to America, but he lost the boycott year in '84 where he'd been the world champion on both sides of it. So probably should be 6-3 or 9 total. That guy's technique is so dumb in a good way. It's so dumb. Like you ask a question, he goes, easy, David, easy solution. You just grab here and, then you kill him.
Right.
And he also looks at it from a Russian European perspective. They have a very different system than ours. Sometimes when we have nothing to talk about on the podcast, we can bring that up. So, and then you've got a guy like Sean, who's super, ran overtime, super organized, great coach. You got KJ, who's sort of probably the opposite approach of Sergey, but still amazing results, right? Like very much put your arm around you, fire you up, get you motivated. Also unbelievable skill, technician, tactics, all that. And, and they've embraced that you don't have to be representing United States to be, at RRTC. And I'm sure that's interesting talking about this on the airwaves of USA Wrestling. But, for Michigan, if you've got those guys and those athletes and they're working out with those kids, that's an unbelievable experience, who they have there. So, and shout out to Sergey Bolglazov, like just one of the, I think my neck is still messed up from when he demonstrated one move on me. But besides that, one of my friends who's 2 years older than me and still in very good shape, he goes, I'm going to ask Sergey to do his gut wrench on me. I go, I would not do that. And he goes, no, I want to feel it. And I sort of get it, right? Like, you want to stand in there and see what 100-mile-per-hour fastball feels like, right? Like I'm looking around, I'm helping at the camp, and he comes back to me like 3 minutes later, and he looks like he swallowed the world's hottest pepper. I go, what's wrong? And he goes, my liver is on the wrong side of my body right now.
Yeah, those are tough. Those are tough moments.
It's really tough when you volunteered for it. So anyway, Owen Pence to Nebraska, GT. You and I were talking about this one off air. Good for him. Really good for Nebraska. Interesting fit, though, right? With Lenny Pinto, Silas Allred, and Harley Williams all there at 84-97 heavy. I mean, they're going to have to work out some red shirts and things like that, right? Or else somebody is leaving or something like that we're unaware of, right?
Yeah, I was going to kind of like pull up, whatever it was, the conversation of like, at nationals and all that other stuff. And, I don't know if Allred and or Pinto have taken, red shirt years with this whole like COVID situation. It's always difficult to like determine like who's done what, who has this, who has that availability. But like going into, let's say, from the Big 12 into the Big 10 at 197. I mean, 2 very, very powerful conferences. Like I can't think that, one is, I don't think going into the Big 10 is like a step down at any weight class. If anything, like it's going to be, just as tough, if not tougher, depending upon who's all there. But yeah, I think mean, Silas Allred was, I think, a rounded 12 guy. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but like.
Oh, you're right.
And then I think Owen Pence was the 16 seed. But then I can't remember what he did on the backside. So, but once again, if you add depth and, once again, like if Allred's got a redshirt year available and they feel like, or that he's maybe hurt and we don't know about it, there's lots of different scenarios that could play out and be like, hey, listen, we need you. Allred went down for whatever reason, or we're going to think about using him as a, I don't think any of those guys have an Olympic redshirt capability.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I'm looking at Flo's rankings at 197. They just updated them 3 days ago. So a couple things you said. Number one, and I think you alluded to this, 197 might be the one weight class in the country where you could argue the Big 12 is better than the Big 10. Brooks is 1, and Allred is 6, and Jackson Smith is 8. But Tanner Sloan, Stephen Buchanan, Rocky Elam are 2, 3, and 4. So, I mean, you could argue if you have 3 of the top 4, that's the best conference. Like I said, Allred checks in at 6. Flo's got him listed as a sophomore. And Pence is a senior, checks in at 15th. So my guess would be that either Allred or Pinto have a redshirt year. And if it's Pinto, then Allred or Pence is going 84. And if it's Allred, then Pence is going 97. And it's like a 1-year rental if he is in fact a senior. And if that's how it works, then it's an awesome fit. You get a really good guy for 1 year. You have a guy, somebody redshirts who, whenever you can redshirt, especially at those bigger weight classes and put on some more grown man strength, that's awesome. And Nebraska is pretty sneaky good in these, in Flo's rankings. When you start looking at, they've updated the team scores and they've got him at 6 with 53.5 points right now. So Pence doesn't help him there, which is interesting. And when I was looking at him, like, Flo did what I thought they would do, what I would have done if I was ranking. The 2 Michigan kids at 25 and 33 are ranked in the 9 through 12 range. So they're 2 points, but they don't really bump them, like in terms of the rankings. Griffith bumps them immensely. Lucas Davison bumps them immensely. Like, that's, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 points a piece, depending on which guy it is. Not 15, probably 13 and a half to 9. You take the average, like probably 22 points a piece. And then Michigan is at 49. They would have been in the, high 20s without those guys. So that makes for a very interesting situation. Let's talk about the U23 roster. So I think you probably understand this better than anybody, GT, but I'm just going to read this article. It says 17 USA senior national athletes have accepted their opportunity to represent the United States at the U23 Worlds in Pontevedra. Am I saying that right, GT?
Yep.
Spain in October. Per the procedures, the highest ranked age eligible 2022 USA national team member has a right of first refusal. So here are the people that are now on our U23 team. Senior world team members, 5. Yanni, Allure, Guilford, the most exciting man in wrestling, Benji Peak, Colton Schultz. Senior national team number 2s, Vito, Felicity Taylor, Alex Hedrick, Lexi Basham, Sienna Ramirez, Alston Nutter, Britton Holmes. Senior national team number 3s, David Carr, Carter Starachi, Alex Lyles, Emma Bruntel, Mason Hartshorn. This is unbelievable. So you and I talked before this. We said we weren't sure how long the podcast was going to be. This is crazy, like in the best way possible. Like, first of all, you know this better than I do, GT. How good is the U.S. on this under 23 level that these women who are young enough to wrestle U23s are having a huge impact on the senior level? Let's start with that. Crazy, right?
Yeah. So just to throw a little thing in there for the U23 World Championships in 2023, it'll be in Tampere, Finland.
Okay.
And our team goes as this for men's freestyle currently. Cooper Flynn, Julian, I can't say his last name, Shabovi. I don't know how to say that. Brock Hardy, Sammy Sassow, Keegan O'Toole, Dustin Plott, Aaron Brooks, Jacob Cardenas, Isaac Trumbull, Wyatt Hendrickson. That is a who's who of the collegiate system. And then also on the international side, amazing to see. I think that there's a huge aspect of the development that USA Wrestling is doing at the collegiate level in order to get those people on that stage. The biggest thing that I think when we're talking about that is, I mean, right there's however many All-Americans, how many national champs, how many national finalists in our collegiate system that are transferring their talents over to the freestyle side. Now, as we look at, Greco and all those other things, there's other, gentlemen that are on those rosters that are in that same category. I just think that a lot of people lose track of, let's say, men's and women's or women's freestyle, because there's a lot of senior level talent that goes, hey, you're the third best person or you made national team, but you're the youngest person, so you have the first right of refusal to take the U23 spot.
Right.
Of something like that. So, for instance, like Amit, I mean, she's has first right of refusal for basically any age category that she's in right now, because she's like, oh no, these are my spots. Exactly. So for her, it's senior level U23, basically first right of refusal. So if she says, like after Senior Worlds, I don't want to have the spot, it would then go to the next person in line at the senior level that would still qualify for U23s, or then to the U23 girl that won the U23 trials in the US. So I'm extremely excited about the youth development, and all of this is in preparation for Paris. And then lo and behold, in 2028, the Olympic Games comes to town, Los Angeles, California, 2028, and having the best team possible that the U.S. can have on its home soil.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of things to break down here. The Greco roster, again, per flow: Camden Russell, Philip Mooney, Mason Hartshorn, Alston Nutter, Benji Peak, Britton Holmes, Tyler Cunningham, Michael Foy, Nick Boykin, Colton Schultz. So the two things that stick out to me here, and then I'll get your opinion: Benji Peak, we all love watching him wrestle if you like Greco, and Colton Schultz is going to double up, right? GT is going to do seniors and U23s. Is that the correct interpretation?
Yes, he will have first right of refusal to be able to do that. If he doesn't want to go to U23s, he doesn't have to, but he has the ability to go.
Okay. Women's freestyle: Nyla Valencia, Felicity Taylor, Alicia Hauk, Alex Hedrick, Lexi Basham, Alex Lyles, Emma Bruntel, Sienna Ramirez, Amita Lohr, Diamond Guilford. So you mentioned Amit, having the right to be on any of the 17 teams that she's qualified for. Emma Bruntel, 65 kilos for this, 68 kilos for seniors. So she theoretically could double dip. What else sticks out to you about the women's proposed roster?
I think, for those athletes, especially at the U23 level, you have a lot of senior level experience out of that group. Girls that have gone on tours, gone to ranking series events, brought home medals. I think, for instance, Amit is probably, I don't want to say like a captain as young as she is, but like has been on that U23 team before, and has had great results. So, I think I would expect our U23 team to come home with some definite hardware, and then be able to make some executive runs into the Olympic trials heading into April of 2024.
I mean, I agree for whatever that's worth. Okay, now the U23 men's team, which is it. There's a bunch of sort of conversations here. Vito at 57, Nagao 61, Yanni 65, Yaya 70, David Carr 74, Starachi 79, Hidley 86, Cardenas 92, Sloan 97, Cassiope 125. Am I correct that if somebody medals at this, that allows them to take an Olympic red shirt, that's one of the criteria? Or this
I
is
believe
last
so.
year's?
You have to medal there.
I'm looking at last year's, aren't I?
Yep.
Right, hold on. Let me pull up here. This is not. All right, here's the 2023. My fault. Okay,
Okay.
here it is. So 2023, Cooper, Flynn, Klebo, Hardy, Sasso, O'Toole, Plott, Brooks. So Brooks is a really interesting one, right? Like he lost to Taylor but beat Zahid, and now Zahid is going to the seniors at 92. Brooks is going to the U23. So my question, I guess, is still the same on the back end, guys. I apologize for getting the wrong roster. Like, for example, a Wyatt Hendrickson. I mean, most all these guys have college eligibility left. All of them do. Literally, I'm looking at it. Flynn, Klebo, Hardy, Sasso, O'Toole, Plott, Brooks, Cardenas, Trumbull, Hendrickson. If any of them did not have a red shirt available to them and they were to medal at this, that would qualify as an Olympic red shirt, GT?
If they medal, yeah, I believe so.
Okay. At least that's how it was the last time. I mean, they can change the criteria, but so Cooper Flynn, for example, who did a great job as a freshman, wasn't even the guaranteed starter at VTech till like January. I mean, if he medals and he's like, you know, for whatever reason, they want to wrestle the other guy and say, look, I want to get a little bigger. I want to try to, I want to, the process of going to the Olympic trials. Like, you never know. This is my shot. They can do that. If Sasso is in a transitional year from 49 to 57, he could do that as well. All those things apply, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this team, thank God I got the right roster, and thank you for the text. So this team's going to be there's some heavy hitters on this team. You know, Klebo actually really impressed me, and I talked to Pritz, and he's like, hey, he's been very patient. He's been behind Mikhail McGee. We knew how good he was, and now he's got his chance to shine, and he's probably the least known guy on the team. So, you know, but he's training with McGee. He's training with Brandon Courtney. He's training with the rest of that sun-kissed ASU crew. So, I mean, there should be some heavy hitters here. And I think the statement that bodes abundantly true is this crew, Greco, women's, men's, in a 23 kind of year, will probably be at the forefront of 28. You know, so, I mean, I think that's, like, again, you look at like Keegan O'Toole, like to me, he's got to be one of the guys you consider at 74 kilos in 2028, right? Like JB, we're pretty sure is done. Dake, that's a long way off at his age. Nolf will probably be there, right? But Nolf beat Keegan convincingly 9-2, I think. It was up 9-0, but you know, Keegan's probably got to be, if you take off JB and Dake, he's got to be top 5 in our country, senior level at 74 kgs, right? So, like, now he's going to get a chance to wrestle in this. He was an under 20 world champion, so he's done it on the world level. This has got to be somebody that, you know, is ready to make that jump, and to get to see these guys do this early is a big difference, right?
Yeah, I think that there's I mean, once again, that's the proven talent that we see now. There's probably some dude that's a freshman in high school that's gonna make a big noise when he gets to college, and you know, could make a run like a Jaden Cox between now and, you know, so like all those guys that are on the cadet teams or junior teams that could be coming up through, you know, Fargo championships, all of a sudden, you know, gets outplanted by whatever it is. So there's so many great stories of that through USA Wrestling's history. You know, young up and coming kids that come out of nowhere, and not necessarily out of nowhere, but like that are not on the radar on the senior level that make the senior team.
They catch guys like Luke Lillidow, going to be a senior in high school, and, you know, made the U20 team, like Amira Shapiro, right? And then a lot of this is, I don't mean this disparaging. A lot of it is luck. Like, what is your natural body weight, right? Like, there are some guys that are 70 kgs is their perfect weight, right? So like they're too small for 74 in men's, too big for 65. where if you happen to be, your natural body weight happens to be 9 pounds heavier, like all of a sudden you're in a way more blessed situation in terms of how much you're allowed to eat without having to be psychotic about it. So these are some of that. I think that luck is a fair sentence. Like, that's not in any way disparaging any of these men or women's skill levels. This is, some people just happen to weigh at 5-6% body fat more or less than somebody else. And these are the weight classes that have been randomly decided. So these people have less to stress about in terms of weight cutting than other people. So anyway, all right. So I think that wraps it up. There's one story that's out there that we're not going to discuss. We're trying to make sure we got the details correct on it. If you watch and listen, there's no way that Grant and I don't know what's going on in this, but we want to make sure we have absolute clarification before we comment on it. So once again, for me, I'm off to Beat the Street Chicago in about 4 hours. But before that, GT, I get to have lunch with my dad, 80th birthday today. So want to give a shout out to most important dude in my life, hero of mine, coach, mentor to so many people, and looks younger than me at 80. So that's enough depressing, so might have led a slightly cleaner lifestyle than I have over the years. Theoretically, that might have been the case. So let's put it this way. He does not know the ingredients of a Moscow Mule. So
There you go.
leave it at that. So happy birthday, Pops. Love you. GT, anything else before we sign off?
Just looking forward to the weekend here. Once again, happy birthday to Ron, the man, absolutely the man.
Yep. And for those of you that follow, as much as GT and I are really good friends, we don't see each other that often, but there might be a group picture in Fargo. That might happen. So we're going to have to calculate all the wing bets over the last 6 months and figure out who owes who. But it'll be a hefty bill for sure. So for Mark, for Grant, I'm David. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Speak to y'all next week.